Thank you so much for staying with us, everyone. The DSS raid on the judges across the nation, in some part of the nation, if I may say, it's gotten us talking on the program. And of course, a lot of people have been reacting to this, and that's what we're talking about, bringing under the spotlight the Muhammadu Buhari administration's anti-corruption war. Mr. Judicial has been talking to us on the program. And of course, a senior advocate of Nigeria, Chief Mike Ozekome, from our Abuja studio. Before we went on that break, Mr. Ogunye was quoting some section of the law to us as to whether or not the DSS is allowed to go in the manner in which they went to search in the houses of those judges. But let me quickly show you the portion of the act, the law, that guides the activities of the DSS. For example, the National Security Agencies Act, Caps 74, Volume 11, states basically what the DSS is supposed to be doing, and it states, let me quickly go through it. It's the State Security Service shall be charged with responsibility for the prevention and detection within Nigeria of any crime against the internal security of Nigeria, the protection and preservation of all non-military classified materials concerning the internal security of Nigeria, and such other responsibilities affecting internal security within Nigeria as the National Assembly or the President, as the case may be, may deem necessary. Mr. Ogunye, when we wonder, from the portion of the law that you quoted, perhaps it was quoted out of context in the light of the law that guides activities of the DSS, if truly the DSS are not acting outside of their jurisdiction.
It depends on your interpretation. No. Look at Section 2, subsection 1, as you just quoted, and Section 3. This law was made during the military era, and it has wide implications.
Even in
anything the president feels. Listen,
even in the corruption matter.
Look at it. Look at it. Anything the president feels affect the internal security of Nigeria. That's not my language.
So a corruption can be in the internal security of Nigeria.
Corruption of a judiciary that wants to destroy a third arm of government can be deemed, and indeed I would deem it, as something that is affecting the security of the country.
All right. Mr. Debo Deniro, the executive chairman of the Coalition Against Corrupt Leaders, has since joined us in the studio. Many thanks for coming on the program.
It's my pleasure.
From the angle of civil society and the human rights community, Mr. Deniro will be talking to us on the program in that line. Mr. Deniro, a lot of reactions trade the decision of the DSS to go hard on these judges, bring them out in the middle of the night. Do you think that we are still in democracy?
Thank you very much. Yes, definitely yes, we are still in democracy. And democracy doesn't necessarily mean that we have to subject ourselves to the whims and caprices of the ruling elite that has let every person in this country down over the years. What we wanted, and that is why we voted the new regime into power. They promised change, that the old order will be changed for a new order. The way things were being done before the new regime came was what certain people want to continue. They have destroyed every fabric of this society. And I have to say this. If there is corruption in the judiciary, then nobody is safe. And it will eventually lead to anarchy, because people will have lost confidence in the capability of the judiciary to hold its own as the last, hope of the common man. And people will now resort to self-help.
What some people in the human rights community are saying is, fine, fight corruption. But what manner are you, in what way are you fighting this corruption? When you go in the middle of the night and, in that manner, these are some of the questions that have been raised. Is that right from your own perspective? I've heard you come hard, especially when the issue of the sale of assets, you were not really happy with the Buhari administration. It looks so much, you've changed your perspective to how you...
Because he has impressed me with the new vigor he has introduced into the fight against corruption. Let me tell you, if you have an emergency problem, you have to treat it with emergency solutions. We are in
with some military and dictatorial acts.
Look, there's nothing
Mr.
dictatorial.
Has said.
GT has just quoted some portion of the new, criminal, administration of justice.
And by the way, just yield me this point. By the way, you are quoting Ayofayoshi, the man who literally organized the beating up of a judge. So that's the one we are referring to now.
And court records.
And lawyers were assaulted on that occasion. That's what you are referencing as the validation of a notion that judges cannot be arrested.
Does that make what the DSS did right? Mr. Ogunye, what the DSS did, you saw absolute no wrong in what they did.
That judges are arrested, the section 98 ABC of the criminal code, for example, talks about corruption and abuse of office, right? And it provides, in part, that judges can be arrested. The only restriction is that when you are going to arrest judges, you arrest them with warrant of arrest. And that when you are going to proceed against them, the information will be filed by the Attorney General of the Federation or the state. In other words, the point I'm making is that the law envisages the arrest of judges. If it has not been done in this crime before, that doesn't mean that the law does not allow for it.
Where do you put the NJC, for example?
Exactly.
NJC administratively disciplines judges. For example,
why don't you? For example,
in an organization that doesn't have power of investigation, bordering on security of the country or otherwise, you can discipline an erring member of staff who, for example, engage in corrupt practices, but haven't done so. If that corrupt practice also is a commission of crime, you hand the person over to the body that should prosecute or investigate such crime. In other words, the point I'm making is that NJC is not a court. And indeed, under Section 153 of the Constitution, the NJC is regarded as an executive body. Go check it out.
But does he have the executive powers?
It is not a court. It is not a court. I tell you, for example,
so
Justice Salami,
for example,
NJC recommended that Justice Salami be recalled. Was he recalled?
If, for example, Mr. Ogunye, I put it to you.
Was he recalled?
No, for example, I put it to you, Mr. Ogunye, if you were the chief judge of the nation right now, in this case, what would you do?
What I would do, I would do a serious introspection. Why has this happened? Time and time again, petitions have been written to the NJC on conduct of judicial officers. Why did you have to wait until the executive now have to act? Why?
Mr. Adeniro,
yes.
If you may come in here,
yeah.
A lot of people are asking, well, it's good to fight corruption. And a lot of Nigerians agree that corruption is the bane of our society.
Exactly.
But again, the manner is what a lot of people are talking about.
What is wrong with the manner? I should tell you this. The DSS actually did their own investigation, or well, I don't know. They obtained certain security, what do you call it? Intelligence reports. And they approached the same NJC that, look, we have intelligence reports that says that these people are keeping hard currencies in their houses and that they are very corrupt. Okay? Instead of the NJC to respond to it, they said they should bring the intelligence report. Meaning that once they give it to the NJC, the thing is no longer intelligence report. And of course, there's a way that word goes around and it gets to the judges. I should tell you that during the trial of the former governor of Delta State, we wrote 4 petitions to the NJC. They waited. Of course, it's on the basis of our petition that the trial judge, Masayawo, had to delay his ruling about 3 times. Eventually, the NJC said that our petition lacked merit and we didn't have local standard and all that. It was dismissed. So, Masayawo gave the ruling. Despite the fact that one of the charges against the former governor was the $15 million dollar attempted bribe, to the EFCC. Eventually, they dismissed it, and you know what happened in the United Kingdom. That is the kind of NJC you are talking.
All right.
That is the kind of NJC people want you to retain.
Just a moment. Let's bring in the senior advocate of Nigeria here, the constitutional lawyer talking to us from our Abuja studio, Chief Ozekome. You've heard the intervention of Mr. Ogunye and Mr. Adeniran here. What are your reactions to it? For example, Mr. Ogunye feels that the law that you were quoting at that moment was perhaps the old version of the law. Maybe you're not current, the senior advocate. Do tell us what is current now and what's your point, what your stand is with what Mr. Ogunye has said.
Let me tell you, the very law he quoted is prefaced by when you want to search and the person you want to search, the suspect, resists arrest or resists search, then you can begin to break down. You don't go to a person's house at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. with axes and hammers and begin to break down doors. A person you had never invited, you have not knocked at his door to see him. In fact, one of the judges, there's no need to mention his name here, they later discovered that he was not one of them that they were targeting, but nonetheless, they still carted away a file containing judgment that they have not yet delivered, even when they found their mistake that it was not him they were looking for. Now, the very section they are quoted has to be subsumed within the very, very functions of the DSS, which you ably quoted from sections 1, 2, and 3, that it is none of the business of the DSS to even carry out what they did. Secondly, the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, which a lot of people have always waved like a flag, is subject to the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution. And by section 1, subsection 1, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, if the provisions of any other law are inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution, they will be null and void. The Constitution, starting from section 32 dealing with liberty, to the section dealing with freedom of movement, dealing with dignity of the human person, dealing with the fact that you have absolute confidentiality of your mails, of your mails with your family, all of them were breached in what they consider to be carrying out their functions under the ACJA. So the ACJA, insofar as they made those funny provisions, assuming that the DSS even carried them out properly, they are null and void and of no effect whatsoever, and they will be struck down. The last time I met with GT Ogunye, I remember, was the 25th of June this year in Lagos, in your Lagos studio, there, where you are sitting. And it was dealing with this issue of Ekweremadu and Senate President Saraki, and he was arguing that they had a case to answer. And I said they had no case to answer. The case was not properly investigated. They couldn't have been like Nostradamus, the man who saw tomorrow, to know that they will win an election, to know that when they win the election, they will come to the National Assembly, and that they will become Senate President and Deputy Senate President, and that during the period of interregnum when they were in their states, it was the leadership of the National Assembly that could amend rules. He argued against it. Only 2 days ago, the federal government came out like a dog with a tail in between his feet to withdraw the charges because
we have to go on a short break, and when we return, that debate will continue right here. Join us again.